Hey guys, good morning once again, or good afternoon, evening. I'm back here. It's Wednesday and I'm here with the next to last video in a series that is going through the topics and the weeks from the book and the course, Your True You Journey. And so, although this is the next to last, the 7 out of 8, in a way, this is kind of the best one. So, saving the best for last. What I want to talk about today is why any of this meaning life, you, me, sharing this True You journey, why any of this matters. And I think so often we can really get caught up in our own story about life and trying to get to a place in life where we feel better, which is important. And sometimes we forget why we want to feel better in the first place. And so that's what I want to talk about today. So whether or not you have seen the videos leading up to this, I feel like this is relevant, so I won't give too much backstory here, but I'll just kind of paint a picture. So for instance, if you think whether you are experiencing stress, anxiety, a relationship struggle, maybe a financial struggle, struggle with your body and food and an eating disorder as a core part of my story. Whatever kind of situation in life that you might be facing, maybe just feeling overall dissatisfied in your work. I'm going through a period of time where I'm really questioning, like, what am I doing? What is not so much my purpose, but how do I bring me to the table, right? And that's a question that a lot of times can feel disheartening a little bit and uncertain, and so that can also feel a little bit stressful or bring anxiety and that kind of stuff. And so regardless of what situation you might be facing in your life where you're not feeling great, you're not feeling 100%, and you're not feeling like you can fully show up and bring your whole self to the table, that doesn't really matter. But let's talk about why would you want to bring your full self to the table. So one is just for the personal satisfaction of it, right, and the fulfillment of it, and all the things that I've been talking about up till now, right? So more self-confidence, more self-esteem, really understanding and owning our self-worth, being able to be courageous in the face of fears, and really just, I suppose, going through the full range of life without letting the good or the bad sort of knock us back or knock us sideways, right? And so we want to be in this place of flow and sustainability and consistency in the way we show up in the world. Great. Why is that important? Well, here's the thing. It's important because of you. And if you're saying this to someone else, just point outwards. It's important because of the other. Life isn't just about us fulfilling our own needs and feeling great and being happy and achieving and whatever other kind of words you want to put around that, right? Life also is about what we can give and what we can offer and what we can bring to the table and how we can be in relationship with the other being either another human, animals, nature, whatever other aspect that is not about me. And so that's the point that I really want to drive home today, is that this is not about me, right? Like, yes, we want to get to a place of stability and centered and grounded in our life, and where we can feel that we have our whole self. But if we just stop there and all we're doing is what I liken to the inhale, if all we're doing is breathing in and filling ourselves up with the next course and the next coach even, or the next book, or we're just consuming the more yoga classes, the more therapy, all that kind of stuff. And if all we're doing is consuming all of that and it stops there and there's no exhale, we can get stagnant. And so really all those things are so important. I am not taking away from any of those. However, we have to understand, why am I doing that in the first place? Number one is taking care of yourself, right? And getting yourself to a place of stability. And I kind of think of in that to the recovery phase, or you do have to inhale, but then once you inhale, you have to also remember to exhale and breathe out, right? And so the question today is, how do you exhale? And it goes under the umbrella of the next to last chapter in the book of I am here to shine, right? Like, you are here to shine. You are here to bring your brilliance to the world. You are here to exhale. You have skills, you have gifts, you have talents, you have unique ways of seeing the world that only you can see. It doesn't matter if somebody else is saying a similar message. Your message is still going to be unique when it's coming from your authentic voice. Okay, it doesn't matter if there's a million vegan bakeries in town, yours is still gonna have its own unique twist. And so no matter how, and this is why we have to check in with our comparison and the inner critic, because we can so easily look out at the world and say, well, somebody else is doing the thing that I wanted to do. Great. That doesn't mean that it needs to stop you, right? This is the time then to say, cool, well, I wanted to do that too. How can I go about and do that in my own unique way and use it to inspire you and motivate you, but not to hold you back? And so what I want you to, what I'm going to ask you to think about for this week is, how connected are you to your skills, to your talents, to the gifts that you have? Are you able to identify them for yourself? If you're not, then maybe spend some time just really acknowledging them, owning them, and valuing that part of yourself, right? Value the gifts that you bring. And if you're struggling to say, well, how do I know what those are? Then check, like, what do people thank you for? When are people smiling? When are people giving you feedback that's encouraging, okay? And just kind of keep rolling with that and really own that and claim that for yourself. And the next thing is to think about, okay, how can I selflessly give? And I'll just tell you a really quick story to illustrate the point here, and then you can figure out how this translates into your own life. But I'll go back to days where I kind of first learned this lesson when I was in recovery from an eating disorder. And so I noticed that every single night my time was used going for a run and then going to the gym. And then I would be in this state of, judging my body, needing to want to lose more weight, never really feeling great about myself after I did those two activities, which would then lead to the question of what am I going to have for dinner, and this whole crisis with food, and maybe buying food with an intention for a binge, or just sort of mindlessly eating when I got home and eating more than I wanted because I was never in a grounded place. And it all started from when I left work and started this cycle of going for a run and going to the gym, and it would just perpetuate this downward spiral. And so finally had the idea, get off the hamster wheel. If it's starting off when you leave work, maybe go do something different after work. And sure, there's a million other things I could have done. I could have gone to the bar. I could have gone to, Italian lessons, which actually I did one time. I could have go play soccer. I could do all these different things, right? However, the bar wasn't always sometimes on the list. But Italian lessons, soccer, those were things that I ended up doing because I found that would bring me more joy. And so that's important too. But before I even got to that point, I ended up tutoring and doing a volunteer program where I was working with an immigrant lady who was in the US and wanting to work, and she needed to pass her, basically the equivalent of I guess it would be GCSEs here, but your GEDs in the US. And so I would meet with her once a week, and we would talk about electrons and neutrons and protons and things that I hadn't thought about for years, but was somehow able to help her with from my days in high school. And that experience of giving to her selflessly, I wasn't asking for anything in return. I wasn't getting paid for it. There was no exchange other than pure me showing up in the spirit of service. And it was so liberating because for those moments I was with her, my focus wasn't on me, it wasn't on my life, it wasn't on my problems, and I could just be with her. And it was almost like remembering who I was and am in that moment. And there's so much that can happen when we selflessly serve and give and show up, where we do remember who we are in that moment. And so that's why it's so important, because it's almost like a meditative thing where your monkey mind isn't going, and you're just so present with what you're doing and what you're experiencing that it's that in and of itself is fulfilling. And so I'd walk away from that situation feeling fulfilled, feeling a lot more whole, and then guess what? I didn't have the same cravings that I had had in previous nights where I was coming away from the gym, which was a totally self-centered thing. And so I'm sharing that story with you to just encourage you that wherever you are in your life, that perhaps one of the ways to finding more of yourself is to do something in service of somebody else. And if it's aligned with your skills and your gifts and your talents, then great, because then it's like even more bang for your buck, because you're really going to come home to yourself in that situation. But maybe it's like, maybe even if it isn't, like, that's okay too, right? Like last year or the year before, I spent a day in a dog kennel to volunteer because a woman I was friends with, she was like, let's go do this together, right? And you know, animals, I have to say, not my thing. However, like there was still giving myself that space and that breathing room in my life where it wasn't all focused about me and what I was trying to achieve in life was really good for me, but also I was then hopefully able to give some love and care to those animals, right? And so I'd really encourage you to just think about this week, like where in your life are maybe you getting caught up in your own story, in your own vortex, and how could stepping out of that to take action from a place of service and giving be something that you can do. And this doesn't have to be like random monstrosities here. This could even just be like picking up the trash on the street, even just in front of your own yard, or just, you know, like helping someone with carrying their shopping, or, you know, just little things, I guess call it in the category of random acts of kindness that you can do that will remind you of who you are, and just kind of get us out of this self-centered personal development, spiritual growth world. Because at the end of the day, yes, it is important to recover ourselves, but like I said earlier, we always have to make sure we're breathing that out back into the world. And that's where your shine is, and that's what you're here for, and that's what we all are waiting for and want to see. So I'll leave it here with you, and I'll be back next week. Next week will be the last in the series, and then we'll see what the autumn brings. But for one thing, what the autumn is bringing is you will have the opportunity to go through all of this, really apply it to your life in the course that's starting the end of the month of September. So check that out if that's for you. Okay, lots of love, guys, and see you soon. Bye.